I want to say one thing. I want to ask you a question. Do you think the fandom will cyberbully me if I say this, which is, hello everyone, I am here with a special guest today. We have the lovely, beautiful, and talented Cam with us. Would you like to introduce yourself and let the people know where they can find you on social media? If you're not already following her, what are you doing?
I'm Cam. You can call me Cam or Cameron. Doesn't really matter. I think primarily I would say I do YouTube. Mostly Percy Jackson. I do a whole bunch of other stuff though. I'm about to have to start covering Bridgerton, so that's gonna be fun. But I mostly talk about Percy Jackson. Like I said, I make YouTube videos. I also post a lot on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz. Yeah.
Beautiful. I just need the people to know. I am Cam's #1 fan. If you think you're her #1 fan, I'm sorry. I already have that position taken. I love you so much. And if you didn't see either of our set vlogs, which you should go watch, we did go to the Percy Jackson set together, which is where we met for the first time in person. So we can talk a little bit about that too. But I kind of just want to get into it. Let's talk about the season. Let's chat. First, actually, I have to do a disclaimer.
Go ahead.
I cannot laugh right now. So if you see Cam say something funny and me just be like, ha ha ha, without actual laughter, I can't laugh. Listen, this has not been my year. I was trying to pull up my pants as one does, and I kind of, gave a little, I was kind of doing it by jumping as one does, and I went to sit back down on my stool, and I didn't realize the stool had fallen over, and so I just fell on the ground, the stool legs up right into my rib cage.
Oh my God.
I don't think anything's broken. Let's talk about Percy Jackson Season 2. I almost said Season 3. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, I wish.
So, soon. This year. Isn't that crazy?
That's so crazy.
I was literally just earlier looking online. I'm like, what are Percy Jackson's chances of getting a Season 4 and 5?
I wouldn't be too stressed about it until, the end of February. If I'm remembering correctly, when Season 1 ended, it was around the same time in January as when Season 2 just ended, and we didn't get a Season 2 renewal until, the first week of February. So it had been, a week or two since Percy Jackson Season 1 had ended. So I feel like if they are going to renew Seasons 4 and 5, they'll probably announce it in February. Maybe March.
I'm sorry, I was getting way ahead of ourselves. You're here to review Season 2. Just, if you were going to give an overall impression, review, brief summary of your feelings about Season 2, what would you say?
I loved it. I was shocked because I really loved Season 1. Obviously, Season 1 has its flaws, but I thought that it was really good. I really, really loved Season 1. And then I saw Season 2, and I was like, as much as I love Season 1, Season 2 kind of makes Season 1 look like crap on a stick. And I say that with all the love in my heart, because I feel like first of all, they had no budget increase from Season 1 to Season 2, which is crazy. No budget increase. And everything looks better. Visually looks better. I think everyone's acting got better. I think literally just every single thing was elevated and better.
I'm glad you said it, because I was Season 1's #1 defender. I'm
Same.
This is amazing. You guys don't understand. This is amazing. And then after watching Season 2, now I tell people who are new to the show, I'm like,
you have to get through Season 1.
Season 1's good, but watch Season 2. Don't judge till Season 2.
My litmus test for Percy Jackson, the TV show, is my fiance does not read the books. He read The Lightning Thief, but back in middle school, he hasn't touched it since, and he hasn't read a single book past it. So he's my litmus test for non-book reader general audience and stuff. I just made him watch Season 2 a day or two ago. He loved it. He couldn't stop thinking about it, which is a good sign.
I really appreciated that. I remember on our set visit, I don't know who, maybe it was Zoe or who we were talking to.
Probably Zoe.
One of the producers.
Probably Zoe.
And yeah, I think she said that they really listened to what people were saying about.
Oh, that might have been
Season 1.
Kira.
Oh, maybe it was Kira. Okay.
Because I think I talked to her about that too.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to her about the volume screens and how they're not doing volume screens in Season 2. And she was like, yeah, we know. We know what people think about it, and that's one of the reasons we're not doing it. We don't want to do volume screens anymore, but also we saw what people said about it, so that's another reason why we're not doing them.
I really just like appreciated that though, like them being willing to say like we hear you and we agree that maybe the exposition could have been a little bit
Yeah.
less, maybe the like you said
And
the
it
we
probably
could
still
use more
could be.
physical sets.
It
Yeah.
probably still could be a little less, but it got less from season 1. But there's still a little bit of exposition that I feel like that happens in moments in season 2, but sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. It just depends.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like they definitely improved on like translating the humor from the books. I think I still would like to see a little more.
Yeah.
But I felt like this season was like a lot more strong. Like the Mariah Carey whistle notes,
Yes.
them in the lambs
that.
imitating it. There was a lot
That
of
was so funny.
Like there was scenes where I was actually like laughing out loud,
Yes.
and I didn't necessarily feel that way in season 1. So I thought that was a definitely in the right direction.
Yes, 100%.
I feel like this is where we have to start. We have to start with talking about Clarisse,
my favorite,
and Dior's portrayal.
My literal favorite
Incredible.
ever. I love Clarisse so much, and I'm so happy that I feel like the general universal opinion that I've seen is that Clarisse in season 2 has made so many people love the character of Clarisse. Before season 2, I have been kind of fighting for my life to make people see like, no guys, trust me, Clarisse has so much potential as a character. You guys just aren't seeing it yet because the books haven't dived into it. She has so much potential, and I feel like season 2 proved that she has that potential. I was so happy.
I felt the exact way like you were describing, you were hearing from people, is that in the book, like I never particularly liked Clarisse. I think like after reading Sea of Monsters, I definitely felt like I felt compassion for her, like the way, especially her relationship with Ares.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the series, I don't know how spoilery, I don't know if there's people watching this that are like haven't read the books, but later in the series, I feel like she was given more of a like complex and more like sympathetic portrayal, but I never really like loved her. Whereas in the show, I'm like, that's my daughter. That's my flesh and blood daughter.
Friend. That's literally my best friend.
I would die for her.
Yeah, the show did her better than like I ever could have even imagined, and I'm so glad that they took the time to do that with her character, because this is kind of the most we're going to see of her, at least for a while. They might put more of her in season 3, and if they do, I don't care. Put her in bits of season 3 for all I care.
That it was exactly my feeling at the end of the season. I was like, wait, what do you mean we're not going to see Tyson? What do you mean we're not going to see Clarisse? And that's not, I didn't feel that way in the book. I was kind of just like, okay, yeah, like moving on to the next one. At the end of the season, I was like, wait, what do you mean they're not going to be a big part of next season? I need them. I know. My emotional support characters.
And it's such a funny way to feel, because it's like, what do you mean I'm not going to see these two characters that I love so deeply? But then on the other side of that coin, it's going to be like, we're literally getting Bianca, Nico, Zoe, like so many people, Thalia. Like, we're not going to know what to do with ourselves. I need to see Clarisse meet and interact with the hunters. I don't know if you feel that same way. I need to see like Clarisse and Zoe talk to each other. First of all, Clarisse and Thalia will be best friends if I have anything to say about it. They will be best friends. I will break down the doors of Percy Jackson in Vancouver, Canada, and I will tell them that they have to write Clarisse and Thalia as best friends. They could bond.
I need it. I will be with you knocking on Disney's door.
They both hate Percy. It's perfect.
I have a question for you about Clarisse, because so we got this like wonderful arc for Clarisse, and then at the end the Chris reveal, which, by the way, I'm going to go on a tangent for a second. This is a testament to how good the show is that it literally, I was living in the moment watching the show so much that it had me completely forget plot points for the book. When Chris was like, there's a traitor, it's Katie, I was like, oh, Katie, how could you? How dare you? And then it was like, no, it's Chris. And I was like, Chris? Wait, I knew that. Wait, I read these books, but I like forgot.
Also so much more intense, because I'm pretty positive the first time we see Chris Rodriguez, like distinctly at least mentioned in the books, he's already on the Princess Andromeda with Luke. Like, we never really see him like in the Lightning Thief, like as like a camper or anything like that. And we don't really see him in the Sea of Monsters as a camper. We just know that he's somebody at camp that is on Luke's side. Like, he left and is with Luke. But in the show, they show us him like at camp with campers, being a part of camp. He's on border patrol. He's leading a group of campers like around the border while they're being attacked. And then he's so nasty. Oh, I hate him. I'm sorry. I literally hate him so much.
Right. But that's my question. So he was like, so he was terrible to in general, but to Clarisse, he's like, you don't have friends. Like, do you think the show is going to continue with this sort of Chris and Clarisse romance plot point, or do you think that's kind of like we've really burnt that bridge at that point? Because I feel like now I don't know.
Considering I am a huge fan of Rugard, which is Selena Beauregard and Clarisse, I'm fine if they don't pursue a romantic Chris and Clarisse. However, they're definitely not going to not explore that, because we know that Clarisse eventually goes like into the labyrinth to find Chris to like help and get him out of there. I don't think they're going to take that away, but I'm so curious how they're going to make Clarisse going into the labyrinth for him seem justified after how insane his betrayal was. Because if it was me and someone said that to me and treated me like that and cut my hamstring, I would not be going anywhere to save them, let alone into the labyrinth. So I'm curious. I'll say that.
I would love a little Selena and Clarisse thing happening. I think that would be really cool to explore. And in a similar vein as Clarisse, I want to talk about Tyson, because my God, I loved Tyson in the books, but again, same as Clarisse, the show Tyson, just on a different level of love for me. That's my baby boy. That is my precious child.
I literally had to message Daniel to let him know how much I love Tyson. I was like, I don't know if you're gonna see this, and I'm so sorry, but I just need to let you know, you as Tyson is just so spectacular. You have done levels to Tyson that I never thought could be achieved, and so I just want to thank you. Mind you, I also told him like 3 times at the premiere that I loved him as Tyson after seeing episode 1. He probably thinks I'm crazy. I'm just Tyson's #1 fan. I don't know what to tell him.
I did the same thing. I posted the video, like the Percy Jackson background character video that we filmed on set, and he left like a nice comment, and I left him back a paragraph being like, by the way, I love you. I love your portrayal of Tyson. You did such a good job. The fandom loves you. Like a whole essay. I feel like bad because he was probably like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with
he
that.
appreciates it.
I'm like,
he responded.
You must know.
He responded to me.
Okay,
He sent me back 2 paragraphs actually. He really appreciates how the fandom has responded to him as Tyson. And he's happy that he was able to give the fandom something that they love so much in the show. I was like, so true. Go off, King.
I love them. I love that they're like amazing on screen, and the whole cast is also just like the most amazing set of people in real life.
So nice.
Yeah, but my God, I'm like, I did not expect to feel so maternal for this little baby Cyclops.
I feel maternal over him for 2 reasons. Number 1, just because I love Tyson, but also because I feel so connected to Sally Jackson, because I've been told that I look like her all the time. I feel like that is literally my son. Like I see Tyson and Sally's relationship and I'm like, yep, that's me and my son. That's literally me and my son Tyson.
I got a comment on my photo set literally today that was like, I thought Cam was the actress who plays Sally Jackson.
Every
she
video.
Looks so much like, I'm like, yep.
Every video I post. And I don't mind it. It's like the nicest compliment ever because I think Virginia is so pretty. So
you guys are both gorgeous.
Keep it
gorgeous,
coming.
Gorgeous ladies. I want to get into what I feel like is kind of, I mean, I don't think it's a hot topic, but I know some people have strong feelings about it, which were changes that they made from the book to the show. Because my personal feeling is that the vast majority of the changes have improved on the story in the book.
I fear I have to agree. I have to agree. And we were just talking earlier about how we love that the people that work on the show do listen to the fandom and do listen to the things that, like we say, like, people didn't like the volume screen. They said, all right, we didn't either. Let's get rid of it. I love that they do that, but also at the same time, I like that they don't necessarily listen to the side of the fandom that's like, stop changing things from the books. I like that they're keeping to what the writer's room thinks is for the best and sticking to these changes, because I loved the changes in season 1, like the change of like the Tunnel of Love. I thought that worked so much better. Adding Hermes into season 1, oh my God, what a fantastic addition. Oh my God, like I can't imagine now reading the Lightning Thief book and Hermes not being there. What a miss. I think the changes in season 2 were even better. I can't lie.
One thing that like shocked me, and it shocked me because you predicted it, was the Zeus intentionally turning Thalia into a tree. I saw that, and the first thing I thought was, she predicted this.
Yeah.
She predicted this like 2 weeks ago. How did you know?
Well, first of all, I'm very tuned into Twitter, and a lot of times people on Twitter just tweet out thoughts, and then people will be like, oh, what if this was actually, turning into this? And so a lot of stuff just snowballs in general, like just from Twitter and people just sharing their thoughts and theorizing on the show. But also, I do know for a fact that this writer's room for this show is anti-Zeus. They have t-shirts. They had t-shirts in season 1 that was like, blame Zeus. That's how they pulled up to the writer's room. So I know they don't like him. And you know what? They're valid.
So valid.
And I could tell with the amount of times that they were talking about Thalia's coming back. And by episode 7, everyone was like, why are they spoiling Thalia coming back? I was like, guys, it's because that's not the plot twist anymore. It's something new. It's something fresh. So yeah.
Wow. That was an insane prediction. Congrats for that. But what also an amazing change. Yeah.
I also don't know if you remember this. I remember this. When we were on set, Zoe, it was day 2. We were in the soundstage, like next to the big house, and like Zoe was showing us stuff on her phone. Like we'll talk about it soon later, I'm sure. Like we saw like Athena flying through the air, and Zoe was showing us all this stuff. And we were talking to her, and she was like, wait, do you guys know like the big change that we're making to the end of the show? And everyone was like, no. And she was like, oh, do you want to know like the big change that we're making? And I think we were about to be like I know Juju and Patrick were like, yeah. And I think I was about to say like, no, but then like Walker came over to us, and Zoe never told us what the big change was. And so
I forgot about that.
Yeah, when this happened, it like unlocked that in my brain. I was like, oh my God, she was about to tell us to our faces that Zeus changes Thalia into a tree against her will. Could you imagine if we found that out in the big year of 2024?
Oh my God.
That would have been
completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
You know what? Now I understand why Disney sent us that clip of us talking to Zoe, and it was muted. The sound was gone. I was like, what were we possibly talking about that Disney's like, no audio?
I was like, it's because she showed us something from the siren scene, and then she was talking to us about how the show ends.
Oh my God. Wait, that's so... I actually completely forgot.
Yeah.
That was a conversation. That is so funny.
Yeah. So shout out to Walker.
My God.
Shout out to Walker for saving us from finding out the ending of season 2.
One of the changes that I thought was great was Cersei's sort of character motivation. Mm-hmm. Because I remember thinking when I read the book, like, how are they going to do this in the show? Because I don't think there was anything like egregiously wrong about the way Cersei was portrayed in the book, but I do feel like Rick Riordan and the showrunners have been making like a good caring effort to try to make sure the way certain topics are portrayed and like giving, not like sort of giving bad representation or teaching bad lessons. I think they're really making improvements.
They've taken almost every villain that's in the books, and I love Rick, and I don't mean this as an insult, but in the books like Medusa, Cersei, like these villains are written a little one-dimensional, like how they're basically portrayed always in Greek mythology as villains. But I think the show takes them and makes them a little bit more like multi-dimensional, kind of makes you see a more like sympathetic side to them and why they are the way that they are, while also still making them villains at the same time, which is good.
Yeah, and I have been loving that, because it's like, in the book, it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of almost portraying, again, I love Rick, but it's kind of almost portraying like Cersei being wary of men because she's had past experiences, like as a negative thing. And I really love in the show they just changed it into being she's lonely. I think that's really much more complex villain motivation, and it's much more interesting.
Yeah. They also did something that I really like, where in the book, so like obviously Annabeth gets her Cersei makeover in the book, and Cersei's whole thing is makeovers, but I like how in the show she's still doing makeovers, but they're more internal than just external. Like they still get get pretty. They still get their little external makeovers, but I really liked that they included fatal flaws, which I think is huge. I think that that's such a great thing to start focusing on because that's such an important part of the entire series. I like that they included fatal flaws, and because of that, they took Cersei in a way where she's doing like internal makeovers as well. It's like, we have to find your fatal flaw so we can figure out, we can tackle it together, so that way the sirens can't use it against you. Like, that's just such a great way to take something that comes a little later in the books and give it to us now.
I didn't really clock that. I didn't register that as like changing it from necessarily like an external makeover to an internal makeover. That is such a good observation, because that's exactly what it was. Wow, that is so clever.
It was a bit of like, it was a great way to kind of also like 2025-ify it, you know what I mean? Where it's like, if you watch a movie from like the 2000s and it's like something is like not woke, #woke, but it's like they did it in a way that is good and makes sense to the story, so it's valid, so nobody in the fandom can go and complain, oh they went woke, and it's like, no, it makes sense. It's a smart change. It's a good change for the overall series, which I think the show that's what a lot of the changes stem from, which is why I tend to like them. Like, they feel very intentional, because you can tell that the writer's room is looking at the full picture of the series. When Rick himself, when he was writing the books, he didn't have The Last Olympian written when he was writing Sea of Monsters. So there was no way for him to know, like, he might have known, like, maybe where Luke was going to go or what was going to happen, to Percy or whatever, but, like, he didn't have all of these, like, exact specifics written out like the writer's room now does. So a lot of these changes, I just feel like they're intentional and for the better.
That's such a great point, that like now they're writing the show with the foresight of knowing what's going to happen so they can improve the story, and that like you're right, every change, it's really served to the story and the character arcs. And I just really have such an appreciation for like Rick Riordan being able to say, like, when I wrote the book, maybe I didn't realize that the way I represented certain topics could have like a negative impact on people reading it. And I think knowing that he's like 100%. A teacher, and that he, like, in his head, probably it's important to him that he wants to be able to teach kids good lessons and leave like a positive impact on people. I just have so much respect for that, because I think it would be really easy for an author to be like, there's nothing wrong with what I wrote. Like, it's like, why are you complaining? Yeah. But I think for him to be like, you know what, maybe we can make this better, and then being okay with making changes to make certain topics have like a more positive impact on the people who are hearing the story. I think that's so cool, and I like have so much respect for him for being willing to do that. Yeah.
And it's also like, he wrote the books like 20 years ago. Like, so much has happened in 20 years.
Yeah.
You learn so much as a person in 20 years. So it's like, I feel like for him, he's honestly having fun with revisiting his work and maybe rewriting it in a way that he would have done it now if the books were coming out now. So I think he's having fun with it.
I love it. I love him. I'm still so sad we didn't find him at the premiere.
I need to meet him. That's my goal. That is my goal.
Oh, I was thinking about Annabeth's siren vision. I love, first of all, the little plot twist that they did with that. That was crazy. Did not see that coming. My jaw dropped.
That got me so bad. I was like, oh my gosh. It's Athena. My mom is here. I'm so happy. This is so crazy. I can't believe Athena's actually here. And then Annabeth grabs her hand, and then it's the hand of the siren. And I was like, shut up. They tricked me. I was tricked.
It was so good. And I personally, I'm such a fan of them making her vision be like her mother is proud of her, versus in the book. I know it, it was nice. There was like her parents were together and Luke was there, but I feel like there was some undertones to like Annabeth having a crush on Luke, and I have never liked that plot point, so I'm glad they're kind of pulling that out for the show.
They got rid of that.
That is a vast improvement, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I like how both of the visions that Annabeth had were like a perfect example of her pride and her hubris, which we just unpacked at Cersei's because of the whole conversation about fatal flaws. And so I like how we saw her think that she had so much pride, or like hubris, in the fact that she thought that she could trap the sirens. She thought that she could set a trap and trick the sirens on her own, and they knew that, and they said, okay, we'll let you think that you did that, and then we're going to show you your mom, and then that's not even real. That's so crazy.
It was so good. Oh my god, so many moments in this show, like, I thought I couldn't be surprised because I read the books, and I'm like, my jaw is literally on the floor right now. It's so good.
No, I'm so happy they keep surprising me. Like, as a book reader, I'm like, yes, I want to be shocked. I want to be making theories because I don't know what's going to come next.
And speaking of surprising changes, this was the last change that I wanted to talk about was I know a lot of people were a little bit confused as to why they added Allison as a character. And I have at the beginning I was also a little confused, and by the end I was kind of like, oh, I see this. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear first, like, what did you think of the character addition?
Well, when it was like announced that they were adding an original character to the show that was in the books, I was like, oh, that's peculiar. And then I learned that, like, oh, it was going to be like an older demigod on Luke's side. And I was like, yes, I'm here for the demigods that are on Luke's army. I know he's got monsters over there. I didn't really care too much about the monsters. I'm sorry. I'm here to learn about the demigods that are siding with Luke in this giant war. I want to know about the demigods on Luke's side that aren't just Luke, right? And we get some of that in the books, but it's much later on. Like Ethan and all that jazz, like, and even those are still pretty surface level. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'm so excited to see what they do with the character on Luke's side. And I mean, she was okay. She was all right. She's a character that you love to hate. That's kind of her point. When we were on set, the prop department was telling us like about how Allison as a character was basically added because she gives us a lot of like the physical action in the season. And I totally see that. Like, that's 100% true. And I think it's interesting. Like, the addition of Allison allows Luke to not be as physical. Like, Luke is kind of more of a politician, and he's like campaigning and recruiting and trying to get people to join his side. And he can do that without getting his hands dirty because we've got Allison to be like the person who's trying to, like, you know, square up with Annabeth, or she's the one that's fighting them on the Lido deck and stuff like that. So I see her point for season 2. I'm shocked she didn't die.
Yeah.
That was shocking to me. And I'm curious to see if they, like, do anything more with her in season 3 in terms of, like, exploring her more. I feel like if they go deeper into her and explain why she's so angry, I'll be thrilled. Like, I'll be like, okay, cool, I want to learn about that. But if they don't go into it, I'll be like, okay.
I felt that's a good point. I also like about the physicality. See, I don't know where my brain was on set. You're remembering all these things that I completely forgot.
I have looked at this footage
now I remember that
so many times.
When I first saw Allison at the beginning of the season, I did kind of understand what people are saying is that she feels like a sort of fanfic self-insert OC just because of the way they were portraying her. It's like she came on screen, and every time she came on screen, the main characters are like, Allison Sims? You? Like she was some like big important person. Funny.
Allie? Allison Sims.
Allison Sims?
And it almost led me to I'm like, why are they're saying her name like that? I was like, is there going to be some reveal that, like, oh, she's actually Kronos? Like, Allison Sims, if you rearrange the letters, it's I am Lord Kronos. Madam Horrible, flip it around.
Around Wicked Witch? It's so funny, though, because, like, if Allison sticks around, I actually think that she would be a better first pick for Kronos to, like, take over her body over Luke. Because Allison's, like, fully committed to the bit, and she's angry, and she has no ties to, like, humanity really, but we see Luke has, like, Thalia, and Luke has Annabeth. And so, like, I'm actually going to be really interested to see how they write. Is Kronos still going to pick Luke first, or is Kronos maybe going to look into Allison and then something's going to go wrong there? I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. That's a good point, because, like, she's ready. Girl is ready to die, kill.
She's the better pick.
Always picking a man over a more qualified woman.
So I'm curious to see where that goes. I'm also curious to see if they let Allison interact with the hunters. Because she's a daughter of Apollo. We see her reading those Huntress magazines all the time in season 2. I'd be very interested to see her interact with the hunters. See if she hates them. See if she almost wants to join them.
Oh,
That'd be really
redemption
interesting.
arc. Redemption arc for Allison joining the Hunters. That would be kind of cool.
That'd be interesting.
I feel like I really, though, like, even though at the beginning I was kind of like, who is this? Who is this? By
Yeah.
the end, I was like, oh, I feel like I really understand her purpose in the story, because I think they needed her to be there to be very like, I'm ready to kill. Like, I'm gonna swing at Percy, because they needed something to drive the action and to drive, like you said, the physical scenes and the conflict. And if they made that person Luke, it would almost be like making Luke less complex. I think they needed someone to be very like the sort of the bad cop to Luke's good cop, to make Luke more like conflicted. His feelings about Annabeth as like a little sister, he doesn't want to hurt her, like that needs to be there. So then you need a character like Allison in order to be the one who's like more evil, to be make Luke more nuanced. That's how I felt.
Yes. Yeah, and it's also like for the audience, I think that the show still wants audiences to be conflicted between Luke's side and Percy's side in a way, because I feel like they're giving Luke, like, show Luke a lot more reasons to kind of see his side than I feel like book Luke necessarily does. And so, like, I just feel like they're making show Luke a bit more convincing. So, like, it would be a lot harder for the audience to fully side with Luke if he was so combatant at the very beginning of season 2. Like, towards the end, sure, he's stabbing Percy in the stomach just to stab him in the stomach, and that's messed up, but he doesn't start there, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It gives him like a really interesting arc over the season rather than having him remain like flat. Yeah. And honestly, Allison, she was like pretty iconic in all her scenes. She was serving looks. She was like getting thrown off the boat.
She was
like
fun.
She was great. But let's move on to talking about everyone's I feel probably were everyone's favorite scenes in season 2, which was the abundance of percabeth moments.
Well, I'd like to say my favorite scene in season 2 was the scene where Poseidon showed up, just because I have a brand that I need to maintain and I need everybody to know that that's what I was here for, and that was my favorite scene. But follow-up scenes to that would be Percabeth.
Honestly, extremely fair, because I feel like I feel like if I was a teen watching this show, I would be sort of like, kicking my feet, giggling, reacting to the Percabeth scenes. Whereas like as an adult, it's more just like, oh my God, this is like a beautiful love story. It's great storytelling. But when Daddy Poseidon shows up, like, I'm like, oh, hello, sir.
I saw the craziest tweet this morning when I was just casually scrolling. Somebody said that Sally and Poseidon are what Percabeth would have been if Percy chose immortality.
Oh my God.
I said, why would you tweet this on a random Tuesday morning? What's wrong with you? Delete.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. I'm a big Sally and Poseidon fan. I'm obsessed with them.
It's so funny because I don't know, like, I don't want to sound like I'm like an old, I know we were just talking about like how old we were. I don't want to sound like an old lady. We're old.
We're old.
But every time like the adults come on screen, like we have the Sally and Poseidon scenes, to me, as a grown lady, I react like much more strongly to like the Poseidon Sally love story. That one has me like, oh.
Yeah.
Whereas like I love Percabeth, but it is like watching a kids fall in love. It's just different.
Yes.
I don't like feel like I'm living vicariously through Percabeth, but I do when I watch Sally and Poseidon interact. I'm like, oh, when am I gonna find a man like that?
No, yeah, dude. They need to cast somebody really attractive as Paul Blowfist to make me turn my head from Sally and Poseidon. That's all I'll say. The casting is very crucial.
I didn't even think about that. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, but even though I have made it clear that I'm like, I do love watching when Poseidon comes on screen, I really loved what they did with Percy and Annabeth this season. I think some people were like, it's moving too fast. No, give it to me.
I disagree.
Give it to me.
I literally have a counterpoint to that. I have an absolute counterpoint to that, which I can get into now or I can get into later.
Get into it.
Like I can
get into it.
Well, it'll stem from talking about my favorite scenes, but one of my favorite Percabeth moments in season 2 is when they're on Cersei's island and Percy just found out about his fatal flaw, so he's like freaking out and panicking, and they go into the hallway to talk, Percy has a lot of great lines in that moment that I love, but specifically when he says to Annabeth, if I had to choose between saving you and saving Olympus, Annabeth, I'd burn it all down. I know everybody lost their minds over that, and rightfully so. That's a crazy thing for him to say when we all know that percabeth ends up together. But if you take that quote and actually look at it in the context of how Percy was saying it, right before he says that, he's like, that lady's right. Like, I will sacrifice things for my friends. And guess what? Tyson's dead. Grover's missing. Annabeth, you're the only one left. So Annabeth, if I had to choose between saving you now, my last standing friend, and saving Olympus, I'd burn it all down. I know that it seems like a crazy Percabeth line when you think about how they end up together. But right now, when Percy's saying it in that moment, he's saying it from the perspective of, you are one of my very best friends, and your friendship is so important to me. I don't know if you realize that, Annabeth, but your friendship is actually one of the few tethers keeping me from, like, exploding at the seams. So I need you to understand how important your friendship is to me, and you need to understand how dangerous it is that your friendship is that important to me. So, like, that line is crazy in the grand scheme of things, but in that moment, it's him explaining, like, how important her friendship is. And I feel like this season did a really great job at exploring their friendship and how, like, Annabeth didn't like any of the human things when she went home to visit her dad, and Percy's like, human choices, human moments, like, that's all I am. Like, I feel like they really explored why they're kind of like opposites attract this season, but from a friendship perspective. So I disagree with everyone saying they're going too fast.
Wow, that was such incredible analysis. I'm like listening to this.
Thank you so much.
And I'm like, man, why am I even analyzing the episodes? I'm just gonna say, everyone, just go watch Cam's videos. Like,
I've had to explain
perfection.
that in multiple videos. So I have that speech has been, like, in my head. I've said that multiple times. So that's why it flowed so well. And then to the people that are like, they're moving too fast, I'd argue now, after seeing all of season 2, it is the opposite, because we didn't get a hug, we didn't get the cheek kiss that we get at the end of the second book, and people were upset about that. And I'm like, okay, guys, we have to figure out which one are we going to be upset about. Are we going to be upset about them moving too fast? Or are we going to be upset about them not kissing each other on the cheek? I actually am a fan of the fact that we didn't get the cheek kiss, because I feel like the lack of physical connection between the two of them in season 2 makes sense, because I think Percy right now is clueless to how he feels about Annabeth, but I think Annabeth is at this point aware that she has a crush on Percy. But when you're 13 and you have a crush on somebody, I feel like the last thing you're going to do is actively kiss them on the cheek. Yeah. Like, nobody has the confidence to do that. Everyone is so embarrassed when you're 13. No one wants to do that. So it makes sense if Annabeth is aware of her crush and she wouldn't want to have any sort of physical connection with Percy because she's 13. I think it makes sense.
And I feel like they're really digging into, like, Annabeth's past and her trauma and how that has affected who she is. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, just going from the beginning of the season where she's explaining, like, why she was sort of closed off to Percy was because she feels so different. She's like, I don't enjoy normal kid things. Like, I can't relate to these things like you liking Jaws or going to Disneyland. And I think that it makes, like, you're right, it makes so much more sense for what they're doing with her character, that she wouldn't feel open enough to just kiss Percy on the cheek. Like, she's still sort of dealing with her own issues. But that is, well, I'm still thinking about what you're saying about Percabeth, because that is just such a great point, that, like, we know they get together, so we view everything through the lens of romance. But, like, when I think about all the Percabeth moments this season, like, one of the moments, of course, that I loved was when he's like, you know, Luke is out there and he's like, don't touch her, don't you? I was like,
so good.
But, like, also is such a good exploration of Percy's fatal flaw and his loyalty to his friends, and it's like it's not necessarily just a good exploration of the romance. It's a great character exploration, and I didn't register that. I'm so glad you said all that.
A lot of Percabeth moments, when you view them from the lens of Percy and Annabeth combined, they're a Percabeth moment. But when you take it and you separate it and you view it from the lens of a Percy moment, or you view it from the lens of an Annabeth moment, they have very different. It's a different context completely. Like, viewing Percy screaming at Luke, Luke, don't touch her. If you look at that from a percabeth standpoint, you're like, yes, absolutely, slay. It's giving The Last Olympian, where he stands like in between somebody and Annabeth, and he's like, don't you touch her or whatever. Like, that's what your mind goes to. But then you step back and you look at it from specifically from like a Percy lens, and you're like, Percy is panicking because he is seeing somebody he absolutely doesn't trust at all being the only person that can like physically get to one of the most important people in his life. So it's like it depends on what glasses you've got on. Yeah. You know, have you seen National Treasure?
I love National Treasure. Oh my God, I love National Treasure.
You know when they find those glasses that Benjamin Franklin made forever ago, and like they have like the multiple different lenses on it, and so you can like click it up and it's like you're seeing something in green and then you're seeing something in red, or you flick something and you're seeing it in blue. Those are like the percabeth goggles, and you gotta go in different lenses to see it from Percy and see it from Annabeth, and then you can see it combined as the two of them.
That's so funny. Guys, I'm retiring. I'm just going to defer to all of Cam's opinions from now on. Incredible analysis.
You know what I'm excited for?
Yes.
So, okay. In season 2, this does relate to Percabeth. In season 2, when Luke is talking to Annabeth in like episode 3 about Thalia, and he's like, I was on the run with her for 2 years. You only knew her for 2 months. I can't wait. I know it. And if it doesn't happen, I'll be devastated. I know that line's going to come back in season 3 when Percy says to Thalia, I've known Annabeth for 2 years. You've only known her for 2 months. Because Thalia's going to blame Percy for Annabeth dying or disappearing or whatever. Thalia and Percy are at odds that whole time. They're fighting, and we know it's going to probably be worse than it is in the book. Like, it's going to be so much worse in the show. If Percy is the sassy little rage baiter that I know he is, he's gonna use that back on Thalia. 100%. He has to.
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that. Ah, that's gonna be so good.
Oh,
and it's so good that they put those flashbacks in, because I feel like, I mean, when I read the book 3, it was all obviously from Percy's point of view, and we didn't know Thalia. So I was siding with Percy the whole time. I'm like, who do you think you are? Thalia, Percy, and Annabeth are besties. But like now having those flashbacks, you really get it. And that's the great thing about the show, is that it's not just from Percy's perspective. So you're getting all this complexity and different perspectives.
Some of the best moments of season 2 for me was seeing like Clarisse with her like ironclad crew, or seeing Clarisse and Grover like hash whatever out in the cave. And it's like, sorry Percy, I know you're not there, but I'm enjoying this. So sorry.
I mean, even the little things like seeing Grover and Tyson call Sally, like it's just so great when you get to see all those other scenes that you didn't get in the book. Back to the set visit.
Twist my arm.
We kind of did talk about this little, but I was just curious, what was it like for you getting to sort of see the whole production, the behind the scenes, costume, props, filming, and then watching the show? Did that sort of change your perspective? Did that do anything for you as you were watching? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah. I definitely felt like I appreciated a lot of like the costuming and set production more, because it's like we learn stuff like when I'm watching these wide shots of Polyphemus on his island, I'm like, I know that they found a remote location 4.5 hours away and flew everyone out there for a week to film on this location. I knew that tree, that giant tree at the top of Polyphemus' hill, they physically built that, and they built it so that they could break it down into 3 parts, and then they traveled it 4.5 hours away and rebuilt it on location. So it's like I'm looking at things and I'm like, I know how much is going into making the giant props for Polyphemus to make it look like he is a giant. How much goes into all these camera tricks to make Polyphemus look so huge, and then make our characters look so small in comparison. And like the siren costumes and stuff like that. So I feel like getting able to hear all of the people that work on the show talk about their craft and about how much went into it. Like, I think you even asked this question maybe, or somebody did. When we were talking to the prop department, somebody asked a question that then made Michelle Hendricks, the lady who gave us the prop tour, say that right now she was working on a telescope for Cersei's Island, and they are trying to like bring the cost down for the telescope, because right now with everything that it would take to build the telescope, it was going to cost like $30,000. and you can't spend $30,000 on a telescope. And then I'm watching episode 5 and I see what telescope they're talking about and I'm like, holy, yeah, you can't spend $30,000 on that. It was on screen for 5 seconds. But they still probably spent so much money on it. And it's like, it's crazy to see how much money, time, effort really actually goes into all of it. Like, you think you have a good concept of how much effort goes into everything. Whatever you think it is, times it by 10. It's ridiculous. It's so much effort.
Yeah. Yeah. That is also, I feel like exactly how I felt. It was also like hearing them talk about not just the fact that a lot of them were fans of the books. They talked about reading the books with their kids. They talked about like genuinely loving the story, but also just like how much they cared about their craft and how much they wanted every single detail. Like nothing was just like done without thought, like you said. Every single detail was like endless hard work and creativity and love and care. It was like these people who are making the show care so much about doing the best job they can. And I think that like when I saw it on screen, it just gave me such an appreciation knowing how much love went into this show and this season. Yeah.
And then there was like the stuff that we saw them film. We saw them film 2 different scenes from episode 8. And I remember on day 1, the first thing we saw them film was like when our main characters are back at camp and they're outside and they're trying to get into camp, and then like border patrol like walks up to them and they're like, what are you doing here? You're not we gotta take you in, we gotta put you in custody, blah 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 blah. And it's like, I remember watching that on set, and the border patrol camper guy was like, you guys tried to steal Clarisse's quest, where is she? And I was like, what do you what do you mean, where's Clarisse? She's supposed to be here. This is different. This is wrong. Where's Clarisse? And so then for the next like 24 hours, I was trying to figure out where the hell Clarisse was. And then on day 2, we met Albert Kim, one of the producers, and I was like, he asked me what I thought of like what I'd seen so far. And I was like, I've noticed Clarisse is missing. Where is she? And he was like, oh, you don't know where Clarisse is? You don't know how she gets away? And I'm like, no. She's supposed to be here. If Percy's here, Clarisse should be here, because that's what it is in the book. So that's like a change. And like I learned eventually that Clarisse escapes on Blackjack with the fleece. But for a year, I've been like, how does she get so delayed that she ends up at camp well after Percy and everybody else does? So to finally get like context to that was so satisfying. I was like, oh, okay, she just couldn't get into camp. Got it. She was just walking around the border trying to find a way in. Got it.
That's so funny because I remember you literally when we were on set, I remember you talking about that and you were like, wait, but how does because Clarisse is supposed to be here? And like I said, I was so brain dead and just so like, wow, everything is amazing that I was like, Cam, I respectfully, I'm like a fake fan compared to you. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I respect it.
I had literally just reread Sea of Monsters like 2 months before, because I did a Sea of Monsters reading vlog on my YouTube. Like, and that was before I even knew that the set visit was going to be a thing, because we didn't know about it until like maybe 2 weeks before we left, right? Like, so I was so lucky that I had just reread the book. I haven't read Titan's Curse in a long ass time. Ask me anything. My memory of that book is sparse. Like, I remember the big plot points and like the big hit points. The details of Titan's Curse couldn't tell you a thing. So like that's why I was able to like recall like, oh no, Clarisse should be here, or like I was able to come up with like my trivia like pretty fast when we were on set, because I had literally just read the book. I have the world's worst memory ever. I can't remember a darn thing about any of these books. I promise you. So it was happenstance that I had just reread the book, and I was like, it was fresh in my mind, thankfully. But like, even something that's like not book related, like we got to see Percy's like big speech from episode 8. Like we saw them film that over and over again on day 2, and I was like, okay, this is a fun speech. But I was like, why is he talking so much about prophecies? I was like, what does he mean? So to finally like figure out why he was like talking about prophecies, and like every single time they filmed it, he would say the word prophecy and then turn back to look at Annabeth. I'm like, why are you looking at Annabeth? Annabeth didn't get prophecy this year. What are you looking at Annabeth for? So to get that in context was nice. And then even small things like what Zoe showed us of Athena being in the siren scene, that had been driving me crazy for a year. So to finally see why Athena was flying through the air with her spear. I was like, oh, that's why. Got it.
I love it. It was like we had all these little puzzle pieces, and then watching the show, I did so many. Oh, that's what. Oh, yeah. That's what.
Season 5, we can be extras. I promise. We get told we look like we're 16 all the time. We can fit in, I promise. Let us stand next to Tyson and we'll blend right in, I swear.
I guess just the last thing I wanted to say to wrap it up, we talked about this a lot because we couldn't help ourselves, but okay, two things, I'm just going to put these into one question, even though they're two separate questions. If you could see one improvement, because there were a lot of improvements made from season 1 to 2. If you could see one more improvement made for season 3, what would it be? And what moment are you most looking forward to in season 3? So if you haven't read the books, we're going to talk about spoilers now. So don't listen to this. We're going to talk about season 3. Yes.
I've got a couple of things that I feel like I'd like to see in season 3. I feel like I definitely like to see more of the hunters and see like maybe more nuance with them. Kind of to the same tune of Cersei, where like in the book, Cersei just hates all men. I know that the hunters are the same way. And we kind of see, like, Zoe sort of soften to that mindset with Percy as the book goes on. But I'd just like to see more of the hunters and get to know more of them and, like, see some more nuance with them. I'd also like to see them use more of Percy's powers, I feel like. We touched on it I feel like just enough for my liking for what Percy's age is and where he is right now in his life in Sea of Monsters. But, like, again, on Cersei's Island, when Percy was, like, panicking and, like, about to have a panic attack about his fatal flaw, we saw, like, water, like, spinning out of control in, like, that picture. And I think I'd like to see that come into play with Percy, like, spiraling out about Annabeth. Like, I'd like to see, like, things around him, like, be affected by his emotions because of his powers. And then I'd also like to see him maybe use his powers a bit more in, like, fights and whatnot. And then I want to see more Tyson, because I know Tyson's barely in the 3rd book. I'd like to figure out a way to put Tyson into season 3 besides just, like, having him be on an Iris message. Yeah. That's what I want.
Just have them do it, like, just change it. Like, you know how in The Hobbit movies, they just threw Legolas in. Is he in the book? No, but just throw him. Do the same for Tyson. Just throw him in, you know, randomly.
Exactly.
Like I said, I'm retiring, guys. You want Percy Jackson analysis? You go to her channel, okay? That's where the peak analysis is, okay? You got the lower tier analysis here on my channel.
You need to stop it.
I think if I just, like, to wrap up this video, I want to say one thing. I want to ask you a question. Do you think the fandom will cyberbully me if I say this, which is, I thought Percy Jackson season 2 was better than the book. I liked it better than the book, and I thought it was better.
They shouldn't cyberbully you because you'd be correct.
I'm so glad you agree.
I think, okay, here's my thing. Like, I love the show. I can understand some, and like when I say some, I mean like maybe 3% of some of the fans' like grievances with the show. Like, yes, I wish there was an underwater bubble in this season, okay? Yes, I do. And I can understand that. But some of the grievances I feel like are so unnecessary. But I can admit that the show is not perfect. That's a given. But I can also admit that the books aren't perfect. And I feel like that's what a lot of people miss out on when they're like, oh, the show changed this. The show changed this. The show changed this. And I'm like, if you step back for a second, dude, and stop thinking about the book so dang much, like you might be able to see the fact that the changes are actually good and beneficial. And actually maybe what Rick originally wrote isn't the most perfect piece of literature. Like, they're not like, Percy Jackson books are popular. Like, people love them. But they're not they're not like the peak of literature. They're not. So it's like things can be changed, I fear. And it's okay. And I agree. Season 2, the show is better than book 2.
Beautifully said.
And I'll stand on that.
Beautifully said. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you so much for giving us that beautiful analysis, for taking the time, for like, I always love hearing what you have to say about Percy Jackson. Everybody, please, if you're not already following Cam, literally, what are you doing with your life? Go give a follow, go watch her videos. And also, we will have a video with the two of us that is going to be posted on her channel. So please do go watch that. We're going to be talking about our favorites, our
top
Percy Jackson
threes,
favorites.
our top threes.
Top threes, yes. So yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and head to Cam's channel next.